Hey guys, back with another one here. This is a really cool knife. So this is made by Rip Knives, and this is a Russo Rogue. Rip is done up by a guy named Danny Yard, and he's out of LA, and I think he started making folding knives about 5 or 6 years ago. And he's displayed quite a bit of his work at the California Custom Knife Show. This particular knife came from that show in 2024. So it's a recent build of his. Recon 1 e-knives, they typically pick up quite a few of his builds at shows and then put them up on their website for sale. And that's primarily how you can get one unless you happen to contact him and get on his books somehow, which his books seem to be perpetually closed. So, you know, I'm not sure how easy it is to get on his books. But yeah, I had another one of these. I forget what the model was, but back a couple years ago, and I got rid of it just because it was a chisel grind. I'm not too keen on chisel grinds. It's not my thing. But I wanted to check out kind of his work at the time, and I got a good deal on the knife. And so my objective there was more to see the fit and finish, how it ran, how it deployed and all that. And I gotta say, these knives will be one of the smoothest operating knives in your collection, bar none. It's on bronze washers, and three methods of deployment work just fine. So flick open, reverse flick, which I'm not great at anyway with any knife, and then roll open. So, come here. There's a little bit of tension, of course, from the detent, but it's so smooth just on the rollout, and then flicks open perfectly as well. And as you can see, this is pretty unique because it's got a window and it's got a thumb stud. And the window also allows, how can I do it? Allows you to flick it open, albeit given the geometry here, I guess you could say it requires maybe a little bit of wrist action to get it open. Same thing with the reverse flick, which I'll try to do here. A little bit of wrist went into that. But the thumb stud is there, and I prefer that method of deployment when I'm trying to flick it open. Reverse flick, you got to use the window, or I do. And then same thing with the roll open, I prefer the window. But it's really neat that he's got the thumb stud there and the window. You don't see that too often. The feel in the hand is excellent. I've got kind of smallish hands, and as you can see, there's some room out the back there, but then you can come up like this and get into the choil. And some knives, when you get into the choil, you kind of are in that pucker zone because it's like, man, am I going to cut myself or not? Just because of the size of the choil. And this one's very generous. So even if you have larger hands, you won't have a problem. So yeah, the other thing to note up top here is there's no jimping here, which I thought I would have an issue with, but I don't, just because your purchase is so good with the size of the scales here, the grip, that you don't really need the jimping in my opinion. I have somewhat sweaty hands right now, and yeah, it's gonna slide forward, but it slides forward and then just stops, given the purchase I already have on the knife. Fit and finish is excellent. I'm not sure. I don't know if he uses any CNC. He might not. That's something I'm not too clued in on with his builds. But one thing to note, at least on this one, is it's not pocketed out inside the scales, right? So there's no weight reduction there, and the weight itself, you feel it compared to some other knives, but not in a bad way. It's well balanced and all that, but it's definitely one of those things where, I think it comes in just under 6 ounces. Yeah, so 5.96 ounces. So it's on the heavier side. But again, it doesn't bother me. It fits great in the pocket. If you can see here that it would come up to about right, I guess about right there. So not too much comes out, and it's thin enough where it just kind of goes in and is there. I've carried it once, I think, since I've gotten it, so obviously not much really at all. Matter of fact, I don't even think I did. I think I took it out before I left the house and I put a different knife in my pocket. So never mind. I haven't even carried it. But when I had it, when I threw it in my pocket real quick, I mean, I could just tell that it's very carryable, even though it's, you know, a heavier knife. And what I love about this, and it's kind of a feature on all his builds, is it's kind of a wider pocket clip. And then that way, when you grip the knife, there's no hot spots, right? Like on your hand here, because the pocket clip becomes part of the grip. Some knives, you know, with really thin and sleek pocket clips, when you grip the knife, you can really feel the pocket clip in your hand. It's not like it hurts or anything, it's just something you kind of notice. So that's kind of nice that he makes it wide like that. Also, no sharp edges anywhere. Pet peeve of mine, especially some custom makers, sometimes you get the knife and you're just like, man, you got sharp edges everywhere and or in different places, and it's just like, man, you'd think for the money you'd have that part figured out, or you'd at least know to address it before sending it out. But on Danny's knives, they're super rounded off. I mean, everything's just rounded off perfectly, which I really appreciate. I'm not sure of the torque size here, but they're larger than what you see on many different knives, which I like. I like that just so because you can get your driver in there and you'll have less of a chance of marring things up. Let's see here. I'll pull out a couple knives for comparison. So I'll pull out like a large Sabenza. Let's see. I guess I'll do it from the back. Line it up pretty good there. Large Sabenza, so he's about the same size, right? It's just that the Russo's thicker or wider. Let's see, what else do I have here that pretty common one. Um, let's see. Oh, I could pull out like a Strider PT here, which is obviously a much smaller knife, but kind of give you an idea there of what you're working with. So yeah, you got three size comparisons there. As you can see, the Sabenza comes in right around the same length. It's just a thinner knife, and then obviously the Strider PT coming in a different class altogether, but gives you the idea of size. So yeah, that's kind of a light rundown there on this knife. I think, you know, it's one of those things, if you're looking to buy one of his knives, I wouldn't hesitate. If you're worried about the fit and finish and how it runs, because it runs great. It will be one of the smoothest knives in your collection. That is for sure. His knives are actually pretty well known for that. If you look around online and read what people have to say about them, that's one of the standout features, is how smooth they are. And I can say that this is no more, no less smooth than the previous rip I have. So the consistency is there. That's another thing with some makers, right? It's just the consistency of different things isn't quite there. You might get a good one, you might get one that's not so great, but I can say wholeheartedly here that with a rip knife, everything's consistently really, really good. Let's see, what am I missing? I think that's about it. Now, I want to, just little side notes here, I guess. Centering's perfect on it. Lockup, there's zero lock stick. There's not even, like, you can't even feel it disengage, which I love. Again, it just plays into the design aesthetic, or the idea of it being smooth. Like, everything's smooth. The deployment smooth, the disengagement of the lock bar is smooth. Everything's rounded off nicely. It's a well thought out knife. And he's done a really good job just putting the whole package together. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, please. And then anything you guys want to put in the comments or questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you.